Okay, folks. Well, thanks for joining us once again on the Logical Loan podcast. My name is Aaron Leitz, and I have with me today my very good friend and partner, Chelsey Hernandez. She's a really good realtor here in Arizona. So today we're going to do a market update on the Phoenix and Greater Phoenix market, how things are going. So if you're looking to purchase or sell in the Phoenix or Greater Phoenix area, you definitely want to stick around. Also, before we start, if you want Chelsey's information, all the information will be in the description box below. Make sure to like and subscribe. So with that, Chelsey, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Super. So before we start chatting a little bit about Phoenix and stuff, I know you are one of the top realtors in all of Arizona. Tell us a little bit about your story and about you.
Yeah, so I started buying and selling real estate about 13 years ago, and then ended up getting licensed over 6 years ago now, and picked up production pretty quickly. I do work on a team currently, but my sales alone also put me in the top 1% in the state. And so it's been really wonderful working with so many different people all over the greater Phoenix area. And being able to do that kind of volume allows me to work with both buyers and sellers on a regular basis. And so it's been really fun.
That's great. Yeah, I know that you're one of the hardest workers I know.
So. Yes, it's a 7-day-a-week job, that's for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Your phone's always ringing. It's always on, right? Just like mine. Yeah.
Yes. So. You set boundaries eventually, but I try to be as available as possible because real estate doesn't sleep. So.
That's right. It certainly doesn't. People get off work and that's when you start, right?
Yes, that is true.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So with that, what's the general sentiment of what's going on in the Phoenix and Greater Phoenix area, and how are things going in Phoenix generally?
Yeah, we're in a very interesting time right now. I think kind of as you know from the lending side of things, the rates have been jumping around a little bit recently. And so that's impacted a little bit of buyer confidence with things. So when they initially spiked, it had a direct effect on our inventory. So we went from, as low as around 4,500 homes on MLS up to like 20,000 homes. Now we've kind of dipped back down closer to 15. And but just to kind of put that in context, normal is 30,000. So we're in a really unique situation right now because supply is still extremely low. And so any little dip in those interest rates can create these bidding frenzies. And so there's still a lot of competition depending on what price point we're looking at. But I will say that it's been very exciting that since the inventory did result in a slight market dip, we're down about 14% with prices overall since May, which was our peak last year. We've been able to get buyers really great deals lately. And so I finally am able to get buyers closing cost assistance, where they can use it for rate buy downs, where there's less impact with the rising rates. And so it's actually been a pretty healthy change that's been long needed. So.
Yeah, I was actually, before talking about buyers, I was going to say, is it right now because of low inventory, do we still have sort of a seller's market, or is it more mixed, or how is that looking?
So we did dip into a buyer's market for a hot minute there. But now we're a little bit more balanced, and in some areas, it's actually still a seller's market, technically speaking. So there is a little bit more inventory than there was before. But it's still, like I said, low in comparison, considering the population and demand. We really do need a lot more houses being built. And that seems to have slowed down a little bit as well. So it it is still pretty competitive depending on what price point you're looking in.
Yeah, I was going to say that sort of brings to mind, like, I have family members that are considering moving here, and of course, they still definitely less expensive than where I'm from, which is San Diego, right?
Yeah,
But
I'm kidding.
one question is, right? Yeah, it's very expensive, San Diego. Woo.
The exodus
Hmm.
continues from
Although the
California.
weather's, that's beautiful, but yeah, a lot of people moving to Phoenix, I think, still. But something comes to mind that one of the questions I hear pretty often is, where are the decent deals still being found? I mean, are we only in the outskirts of Phoenix, or like where are you seeing like buyers can find decent prices and deals and stuff?
So the outskirts of town are always going to dip before the inside of town will. So those markets go down first. And so there's always going to be deals to be had there, like in the, we're talking by outskirts like Buckeye, Casa Grande, Florence, Coolidge. But interestingly enough, I've actually been seeing a lot of great deals with new construction. That's been something the builders have started working with realtors a little bit more cooperatively again. And so there are some really good deals to be had that we can negotiate with the builders for those rate buy downs or whatever, appliances, things like that. Spec homes oftentimes have great incentives already built into them. But then also, I think it depends on the house if we're talking about the more populated areas. If it's a turnkey, move-in ready home that's priced correctly, those can still go very quickly and be very competitive. Now, if it's a home that maybe needs a little bit more love, maybe they priced it a little carelessly going on the market, it has more days, we typically will see more opportunity with those homes.
Okay. And I know, I mean, it just feels like, because you and I both live here in the greater Phoenix area, it feels as though in many areas, sellers definitely have, a great opportunity to sell. So tell us about sort of your process when, let's say somebody watching this right now is thinking of selling, right, in the next few months here. Like, what is your process? I know you have like a very good process for sellers. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I do love working both sides because I feel like it makes me a more informed agent because I work with buyers and sellers. I know what a seller can expect with buyers and vice versa. So generally it starts with something as simple as a phone call, and I find out as much information from the seller as I can before meeting with them. And I go into that meeting with them very prepared with multiple different scenarios that things can go. So first I find out about their background with selling, if we need any education there with what the home process looks like. A lot of people, it's their first time selling. I kind of find out what their expectations are, what their moving plans are. Are they going to be looking at buying something else here in the area or moving out of state? Regardless of their plans, I'm able to help make sure that that's a seamless transition because it impacts our timeline and a lot of other factors, the types of buyers we want to attract. After I get a really full picture about what their needs are, then I provide different options available to them. In general, most people have 3 options for selling a home. For some, we can go with maximum return for top dollar. There's some things to do to the home that would really get them their bang for their buck. Some we just work with the home as is. Maybe they're strapped for cash, don't have much available to make any changes to the home. So we work with it in its as is condition, or we also can do cash offers. So the iBuyers are still present in the market, but I also partner with investors who can do cash offers that are competitive with other cash offers in the market. And depending on what that person's needs are with timing, pricing, those types of things, we discover the best option that's going to work for them, because anyway is the same for me. So, and sometimes for people, selling isn't right. And we will always talk about it if it isn't right. And maybe it makes sense for them to wait a little bit or stay, depending on where their equity position is. But in general, I will say most people are sitting on a ton of equity still. Um, Prices are
Yep.
still very high, and it's still a great time to sell. And so, working with my team really helps my clients avoid those days on market where we can look at all of these price reductions. I mean, pretty much everything that I've put on the market this year, I've sold in less than a week. So if you're
Wow.
looking for a quick sell, then I can help with that.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, it's funny because in my experience, and I know you and I have talked about this, there's these different pockets throughout the country where it feels like a seller's market. And then there's these other pockets where it totally feels like a buyer's market.
Yep.
So as you said earlier, we're in this very interesting time in the country where it seems so regional and geographic, right?
Very.
And here in Arizona, it's just a very popular place to live, right?
Yes. We attract a lot of visitors. And I mean, that's a great point to bring up because working with buyers, I mean, our climate, our weather right now, it's a gorgeous day today. And it's going to be
Yeah.
gorgeous weather probably until May. Sometimes May is great too. It depends on the year. By June, we are in the inferno. But yeah, I mean, we attract a lot of people just even for seasonal homes. It's a great place to have a vacation home.
Yeah, I love that. I can just hear like friends and family though talking in my head about this. So that let's turn it to the other side. Let's say that, somebody's watching this, they either live in Phoenix or Greater Phoenix, or they want to move here or considering it. Um, what can we say or speak to the first time home buyer? Where are the deals being found? What are the best ways to think about Arizona and strategies that can be used to still find a good deal?
So the first thing that I recommend for a buyer to do is always going to be to talk to a lender. I'll have an initial conversation with them typically, and sometimes I'll sit down and meet with my clients before we loop in the lender. But the reason why talking to a lender like you is so great, and you have access to multiple lenders because you're a broker, which is awesome. You can really shop the best deal for them. We have numbers to work with because budget is really going to impact where I'm going to direct somebody if we have flexibility with location. And so we want to make sure that we're putting somebody into a comfortable loan product, comfortable monthly payment, because just because they qualify for something doesn't mean they want to be committed to that on a monthly basis. And so it really helps having that information. And other things that I like finding out from a lender as well is where are things at if we don't buy down the rate and if we do buy down the rate, because that impacts our budget as well. And depending on the location, like you discussed, we might be in a situation where we could get closing cost assistance and those types of things. So the amount of money that that buyer has set aside also impacts the type of homes that we're going to be looking at. Because if they have more money saved up, there can be more buying power in a competitive situation, as opposed to a situation where maybe they have little to no funds. Then in that case, we would be a little bit more dependent on some seller assistance. And so it impacts the inventory available to us and the locations. So
Yeah, thanks for that. I love it. And I think one thing that I want to mention for those of you watching right now, some of you may say, well, what's a buy down? I don't know what that is, right? So the basic way of putting this, right, is that a buy down is where yourself or potentially your seller helps you to cover the cost to bring down your interest rate, either temporarily or permanently. There are options for that. If you want to talk more about that, you should definitely look in the description box and call Chelsey and talk to her about that, because there are options in that way, right?
absolutely. Yes. And so it's so helpful knowing exactly what all of those options are, because then once I have that information, we can build a game plan with something that's going to make the most sense, because the numbers, we can't change the numbers, but everything else we could potentially change. And so then I like to meet with clients in my office. And the nice thing is that I have multiple office locations all over the Valley, in the West and the East Valley. So that's very convenient for that. It's because I'm with my home group, which is like the second largest brokerage in Arizona. And so we have a lot of access for locations. If they are out of town, I work with a lot of out of state clients where they never see the home until they get the keys. That's a possibility as well. And we can do video tours and help things out, but we always have that face-to-face meeting, whether it's virtually or in person, preferably in person if we can. And then we go through the process. We discuss, and before I even go into that meeting, I've already done all of the work. I have all of the homes and different things available. We'll click through some different options that make sense for them. And then we'll go out and get our feet wet in the homes. So it's great.
Yeah, I love that. I think the next thing that comes to mind as you were chatting and talking about this here, this sort of the process with buyers, is that, and we talk about this so much, not every realtor is made equally, right? And I don't want to go down the road of negativity, but there's so many times where I talk to potential clients of mine, where they're working with someone, maybe an agent out of state, maybe not, but we look at their situation and then they have a conversation with you and they realize, holy moly, I've been working with the wrong person, right? Because you're covering all these bases that maybe the agent that was recommended to them is like a family friend who's only part-time, right? Maybe talk to buyers there. What are some of the things that really make an agent like a cut above the rest when they're working with people that are looking to buy?
So I think that experience and creativity are crucial with a good agent. And I can give a specific example. I was recently working with a buyer who had a referral for a realtor, and she was under the impression that the only things available for her were like manufactured homes, which are great investments for some people. She's a physician, was wanting something a little bit fancier and higher end. And when I met with her, I was devastated that this was the information being given to her. And it's because the realtor listens to every single to the T that she had described. So this number, this bedroom, this location. And she wasn't very familiar with our area yet. And so I was able to really take into account her situation. What are your needs as a buyer? Well, she had to have access to specific schools. Oh, okay, great. That's good information. She wanted this type of house. Okay, that's great information. I was able to find dozens of options for her and get her under contract the first day we went out and looked at houses. And wow. She's in love with the house and it's beautiful. It's brand new. So it is really important that you're working with somebody who knows how to listen to what you're saying and what your needs are, because sometimes it's hard for a buyer to really understand the different variations that their criteria could mean. For example, they say, I have to have 4 bedrooms. What are you using the 4 bedrooms for? Tell me. Well, I mean, I need to have my office space. Okay, would you consider 3 and a den? Because sometimes a den space is like a bedroom. It just maybe doesn't have a closet, right. So it's important to get creative and think outside the box.
Yeah, I love that. Another piece that I think a lot of folks who are looking to purchase a home, whether you're first time or not, another piece is negotiation. I remember when I bought my house, right? I had a great realtor who no longer lives in the valley here, but she really knew how to negotiate. And something you just said there a moment ago struck me, right? In this kind of a market, if you're in a competitive market where it's difficult to get a contract, or in other words, if you're in a market where it's difficult to get a seller to accept a contract, you need a solid realtor who knows how to negotiate, because otherwise you're going to be looking, you're going to go out and you're going to say, Chelsey, we love this house. We want to get it. And then you don't get it. And then you do it again. And then you do it again. Right. So I think a lot of folks don't think about the negotiation piece. So maybe speak to that a little bit in terms of like, how, not only how important it is, right, but like those processes of strategies of getting a contract accepted, right, over others.
Absolutely. So Information is gold when it comes to negotiations. And so before we've ever even set foot into the house, I've already found out everything there is to know about the agent who's working the house, the sellers, and everything about their situation that I can possibly find out, any existing or potential offers that are coming through, so that we have all of those things to work with. I'm also able to kind of take a look at how the home is priced, what their thought process was behind the pricing, any previous offers they've maybe had but didn't work out or rejected, or maybe previous contracts they had. There's so much information that's really important to gather before we decide on how to best approach an offer. Now, I always leave the control to my clients as far as where they want to come in at. But after I have all of this information, and also depending on their interest level, I'm able to explain just how aggressive we can potentially get with it and where my recommendation would be, potential counters we could expect, and also the risks with making an aggressive offer. So it really just depends on the situation. When we were in the most extreme market, I mean, in modern history, where the bidding wars were insane, we'd be competing against 20 other offers, you know? It was really crazy. I mean, those were things where really understanding the contract was important, because I could use specific language that would allow us to beat out other buyers with by default. So for example, we would use escalation clauses. And so most agents would put a cap on their escalation clause. And so once it hit 310,000, that offer failed. And so I would just write escalation clauses with no cap, and we would beat up every other offer all the time. And then my clients could obviously choose to say no if it got too high, but what if it didn't? Then we won.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. I'm thinking back as you're talking about this. I'm thinking back now about when I bought my house, and this was really before the real run up happened and stuff, before the super low rates. But I think I can't stress this point enough. If you're watching this right now and you're potentially a home buyer, especially for first time home buyers and stuff, it's very, very important to have a real estate agent who knows negotiation and knows how to play the strategic chess game. So many times you'll have a realtor that, and I think there's a common sentiment amongst the public today that, well, all realtors are pretty much the same. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's so not true. Because as Chelsey said, you said earlier, and as been mentioning here, if you wind up getting the wrong person to represent you to try to purchase that home, you could potentially just go for months and months and months and not be able to find the house that you got, because this person doesn't know the industry well enough, and they don't know not only negotiation, but sort of the chess maneuvering that's required to be able to win out on that offer and get that seller to say, yes, I'm going to sign on the dotted line. I accept your offer, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Negotiation is critical when it comes to getting your home. And it doesn't matter what market we are in. You need to have that skill set. And so one good question to ask your realtor when you're interviewing them isn't necessarily how many years they've been in the industry. Ask them how many houses they're selling. Are they living and breathing the market right now? Because if they aren't closing houses, I don't care if somebody's been doing this for 25 years and they close 3 houses a year. Do they know negotiation if they're closing 3 houses a year? And so those questions are important. Ask how many homes they're closing, because that's going to show you they can get the job done. So that's a piece of advice.
Yeah. You guys should know that I will not partner with a realtor who is not good at negotiating, because my name is on it. So if I have someone on the Logical Loan podcast, or if I refer one of my clients to a realtor, you can count on the fact that I've already vetted this person and I am highly confident in their ability to help you in the very best way possible. And that checks all the boxes. That's one of the reasons why I have this podcast, because I want to provide information that's really no nonsense and great for you guys, the buyers and sellers. Also to give you exposure to what is the right way to think about this? Because I think especially when you're new to this, you've never bought, you've never sold or whatever, maybe it's been years since you bought or sold, right? Things have changed. Things change over time. We live in the age of the internet. We live in this information technology world, right? And I want you guys to see like, this is the way it's done correctly. And I really hope you guys go back and listen to this again, some of the things that Chelsey said, because it's so key to think very carefully about who you choose to help you with both your mortgage, your loan, and your realtors on both sides, right?
Well, thank you for saying all of that. I appreciate it. It is important, though. It's one of the biggest financial decisions you're going to make. So take it seriously.
Yeah, humongous. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. Chelsey, where can people contact you?
So phone is probably the best way, because I'd love to talk to you. So if you want to give me a call, Erin has my phone number. You can put it in the description. Email is great as well. You can also go to my website and register there, and I'm linked right to MLS. So it's really easy to start looking at houses right away, and it'll connect you right to me. But yeah, awesome. I'm available any way you want to reach me.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again. And you guys, please like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.
Thanks so much.